On today's episode of Andy Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM, it is Notre Dame versus the ACC. Who you got? The Fighting Irish believe that the ACC was working to actively sabotage Notre Dame's chances to make the college football playoff. They feel like that's no way to treat a valuable business partner. The ACC says Notre Dame is a valued member of the conference community with the relationship they have. We'll see how that lasts. Notre Dame AD Pete Bevacqua had a press conference on Tuesday talking about the ACC and the relationship between Notre Dame and the ACC. Also about the relationship between Notre Dame and the college football playoff, of which Notre Dame has about as much sway as an entire conference in determining what happens next with the CFP. And that's very interesting because Bevacqua was very clear about what he wants to happen next. Also, the 4 Heisman finalists have been announced. Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, Ohio State's Julian Sayin, Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love, and Vanderbilt's Diego Pavia. They will be in New York City. Who's going to take home the trophy? Plus, we break down Matt Campbell's introductory press conference at Penn State. It took a long time. I think the Nittany Lions got their guy, though. All right, I'll talk about it all today on today's Andy Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. We are presented by BetMGM. We use BetMGM lines and totals. And you can join us by joining BetMGM. If you have not signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB, as in college football, CFB, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. Download the BetMGM app and sign on using the bonus code CFB. Deposit at least $10 to place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code CFB when you're signing up. So download the app, deposit at least $10, place your first wager, up to $1,500 if your first bet loses. Use the bonus code CFB when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. Notre Dame versus the ACC, Ari. We kind of figured this was coming. But Pete Bevacqua on Monday went on the Dan Patrick Show, that's Notre Dame's AD, and said the relationship was permanently damaged. And then Bevacqua had a press conference on Tuesday where he further went in on the ACC, said, how can you have a campaign to keep one of your valued business partners out of the college football playoff? Jim Phillips from the ACC has released a statement saying, we didn't do that. We love you, Notre Dame, blah, blah, blah. Ari, this doesn't sound good.
Yeah, somebody asked Bevacqua during the press conference on Tuesday if the relationship could be mended, and he said anything could be mended. I don't want to be dramatic, but I think that it's like, well, which one do you believe? Because you said it was irreparably damaged. So I don't know.
He also said an apology wouldn't do anything, and the time for any discussion is not now. So it's like, we are really pissed, basically, is what he's saying.
Yeah. And you wrote a really interesting column, and I think it's something that we should discuss at great length.
Oh, yeah.
Because as far as I know it, Notre Dame, I think you could make the case, needs the ACC more than the ACC needs Notre Dame. But that would not be the case if there was another power conference that's willing to join into a similar alliance with them. Now, you wrote this column, and I'm going to let you explain it, and then we'll really go into it, because I want to know how likely it is that you think there's a suitor for them. If it's not,
so here's the thing. For those who don't know the full arrangement, Notre Dame has all of its other sports in the ACC beyond football, except for hockey, which is in the Big Ten because the ACC doesn't have hockey. Notre Dame also has an agreement with the ACC where Notre Dame plays 5 ACC teams every year. And that's a guaranteed. So if you look at this year's schedule, it was Miami, NC State, Boston College, Pittsburgh, Syracuse. Stanford's an ACC team also, but that game was an annual rivalry before Stanford entered the ACC. So that particular meeting wasn't part of the agreement. But the reason the Notre Dame does this is because it's hard to schedule as an independent, even as the independent, and it's hard to get teams to play you in October and November because they're in the middle of their conference schedule. So this way, these ACC teams have to play Notre Dame. Now, what does the ACC get out of it? They get guaranteed games against Notre Dame, which help their team's strength of schedules, helps their team sell out their stadium when Notre Dame comes. They get better ratings usually when Notre Dame comes to their stadiums. And their network partner, ESPN, likes it when they can put Notre Dame on their air. So everybody gets a benefit out of the deal. And so I will push back on Notre Dame needs the ACC more than the ACC needs Notre Dame. The ACC actually needs Notre Dame pretty bad. The Notre Dame addition was what allowed the ACC grant of rights to even happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that is holding the league together at the moment is only because of Notre Dame.
That's the other thing too. It's like, is Notre Dame the duct tape that's holding the doors on of an old car that's falling apart?
That's the question I have. So it's not as much about the Big Ten and the SEC or even the Big 12, because I should have put the Big 12 in the column, but the Big 12 is another one in that's kind of in this boat. The ACC has an expiration date on it. That has nothing to do with Notre Dame. That has to do with the lawsuit that Clemson and Florida State filed and the dueling lawsuits between the ACC and those schools that was settled this year. And I don't think there's any question Clemson and Florida State won that whole ordeal. The ACC came out as the big loser in that because essentially the ACC put an expiration date on itself by saying, here's where the buyout really drops. And the answer to that is about 2030, which so happens to be when the next Big Ten TV deal's up. So that is going
to be a long year for us, by the way.
Yes, that will be a very long year for the 28 and 29 when all the people are negotiating stuff.
We've got one more
year
of football before all hell breaks loose again. Just so
exactly. But so the ACC is already a weakened conference, and if you're Notre Dame, you're probably going to them and saying, "Hey, you're not really giving us a lot of good teams to play. Like Boston College was awful this year. Syracuse was terrible this year." Can we get something a little better than this?
I actually think that this is an interesting dynamic because on one hand, the ACC needs Notre Dame to prop up the ratings of the Boston College games. But then on the other, I think that they would stand to be both sides, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame would all stand to gain more by playing marquee matchups. But then you get into a conversation about whether that's fair. So it's like there's no real easy.
Yeah, Notre Dame's actually asked, "Hey, can we just play Miami, Florida State, Clemson?" And in fact, Notre Dame signed an 11-year deal with Clemson, independent of the ACC deal, because they want to play Clemson, and Clemson playing them that helps Clemson too.
So I think that this idea of Notre Dame has to join a conference and all that stuff is just so annoying. I think that we have to acknowledge that Notre Dame is a property that's it's the nicest house on the block in a lot of cases. I think there's only 2 or 3 other programs from a brand perspective that can compare.
Yeah, Ohio State could do it for sure. Maybe Texas, maybe Georgia.
I think that's
Michigan.
Where the list ends,
that's it.
honestly.
That's pretty much it.
But I really do struggle with this because as you start to think about, well, what if they went and signed a similar agreement with the SEC? What would that mean for the ACC? Well, how likely, or is it even within the realm of possibility that could happen? After they just went to 9 conference games, are they all going to sign up to play Notre Dame now? It's just I don't know how likely.
Here's the thing: the SEC is still going to make them play one power conference team out of conference every year.
And if that team
the SEC is
Notre Dame
requiring that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame needs a conference to help fill out its schedule too. Like that's all the other part of it.
That's the only thing that matters. Like they will never play power conference teams in October or November unless they have an arrangement like this. So if you don't have another taker, you're stuck with the ACC, at least until the ACC no longer exists in this form, which could be sooner rather than later. So if you're Notre Dame, you're thinking about that anyway. Like you're already thinking about that. Let's hear Pete Bevacqua detail the relationship with the ACC first, and then we'll talk about what maybe next steps are.
But what we were really surprised by and disappointed was how the ACC conference really went on a social media campaign, in my opinion, attacking our football program. Miami had done that and they didn't. I get it. All's fair. There's a great rivalry, decades-long rivalry between Notre Dame and Miami. And that's the spirit of the universities and the football programs and fandom. And that's what makes college football special, whether it's Notre Dame, Miami, Notre Dame, USC, Michigan, Ohio State. But we felt this was different, and it raised a lot of eyebrows. And, we made our feelings known that we didn't particularly understand this. And it just kind of puzzled us that a conference that's home to over 600 of our student athletes walking around this campus today, I guess chose to go down that road. I guess intellectually I understand it, but I certainly don't agree with it. And why would you attack an unbelievably important business partner of yours in football and a member of your conference in 24 other sports? I'm one person. I don't see the logic in that. I know other leaders at the university didn't see the logic in that. And the ACC is important to us, and we're important to the ACC. And think about football for a minute. Those ACC teams want to play us in football. Interesting stat. Since 2014, when we started our football relationship with the ACC, if you look at stadiums, they sell out. ACC games sell out roughly 23% of the time. When Notre Dame goes to an ACC site, it's 90% of the time. When you think about ratings for ACC football games when they play Notre Dame, there's a tremendous lift. I don't understand why you would go on a social media campaign to attack an important partner. Who's some of our important partners in the football space? NBC. We wouldn't do that to NBC. Now, I understand they have to stand up for their teams in football. We just think there's other ways to do it. And it has created damage. I'm not going to shy away from that. And that's just not me speaking. People a lot more important at this university than me feel the same way. So I think it has done some real damage, and I think the ACC knows that.
People more important than me. Translation, there's some priests who run this thing that are not pleased that we are in partnership with the ACC.
So let's go down this for a second, because I saw this and I kind of believe it. I want to unpack this. Does Notre Dame feel as entitled to support or alliance in social media campaigns for teams to get into the playoff as full-time members? And is the discussion here, you can promote Miami all you want, just keep our names out of your mouth. Like what,
essentially,
like what?
And the thing is, like, he's like, and he said at the beginning, he doesn't care if Miami does that. That's the school protecting the school.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. That's fair. The conference doing that is what bugged him.
Well, do you think that he's right?
I think that he's right in this case, but I also think if they made a similar deal with the Big Ten or the SEC and this happened and it was one of their schools and Notre Dame, they would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you're going to protect your full members first.
I also feel like we're only hearing about this because Notre Dame didn't get in. I don't remember any outrage being shared when that tweet went up.
There wasn't any outrage. And it's interesting because all this was bottled up. And okay, remember going into when we had Mario Cristobal on, and the Notre Dame fans are like, well, how come you didn't have Marcus Freeman on? Well, Mario Cristobal called us. And then we did see if Marcus wanted to come on. We didn't get a response until the next morning.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting byproduct to this conversation.
But I think that was a strategy on their part. Like, say less, because they thought they were in.
Right. And I think that if you want to completely unpack the weekly ranking show like we did, I agree. I feel like Notre Dame has a reason to be upset.
Oh, he had a banger of a quote about the weekly ranking show.
Okay.
Banger. You ready to hear that one?
Yeah, let's hear it first.
And it's something that has to be fixed because, I said it yesterday. We take this very seriously at Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman takes this very seriously. Our coaches, our student athletes, our administration. These rankings, and I said it, so I'm repeating myself, but they can't be a game of musical chairs at a 5th grade birthday party. And that's what it felt like to us.
It's what it felt like to me too.
Mic drop. Yeah. No, and he actually went into he got asked about what if you guys had been 19, one spot below Notre Dame in the first ranking, or excuse me, one spot below Miami in the first ranking. And he's like, we would have understood.
Yeah. Pete Sampson is the one who asked that question, our former colleague at The Athletic. And I think that was, basically, and he was also asked too, is this a Notre Dame foot down stand on no non-CFP bowl game participation in the future or a reaction to what happened this year? And I think that basically the way I understood what Bevacqua said was because we felt like we had the rug pulled out from underneath us, like that was our general reaction to that. And I don't think
he also mentioned they only had basically an hour or two to make that decision, which I still think if they'd had 24 to 48 hours, they'd be playing in a bowl game.
I also just don't understand why. I understand the committee has protocols and you rank them in pods and then you go down the list. We went through the thing. We've done it. I understand that. But I feel like when the top 25 is finished, you should be able to look at it and go, is this the result we want, or do we want to tweak it?
I said that on Feinbaum yesterday. I said, when they did that first set of rankings, the November 4th rankings. So Producer River has them up, I believe. This is the November 4th ranking that's on the screen right now, where Notre Dame is 10 and Miami is 18. You have to raise your hand when you're in the room and and you've done it all, and now you've got the list in front of you. Somebody has to raise their hand and go, guys, we're going to look really stupid if we put this out.
Yeah. And also, I think that people think that the recency of things has a major part of it. And in this ranking, it did, because Miami had lost 2 of its previous 3 games the day that this came out. And that was a knee-jerk reaction to what had happened in the last 3 weeks without taking into account the resume as a whole. And I think that the committee would do itself a lot of favors if it wasn't reactionary to what happened the week before, the 2 weeks before. And they were every week when they take out they love to say, we're taking out a clean sheet of paper every week. Take out a clean sheet of paper, but use the entire resume. If you're going to use the entire resume at the end of the road, then use it every single week as you're doing it.
They ranked this assuming that Miami was going to lose another game.
Again. Yep. And don't assume anything.
And they never lost.
Right.
They assumed Notre Dame would go undefeated and Miami would lose again, and that's not what happened.
I think that every single ranking should be given with the thought in mind that this is the playoff. Treat every single Tuesday release like this is the final draft of what is going to happen.
I don't know that there's going to be a Tuesday release from now on. So remember, Notre Dame has a seat at the table in the playoff construction, and they're still not done constructing the 2026 playoff format. They have until January 23rd to do that. So let's talk about that in a second. First, let's talk about the conference affiliation part, because you asked, how much chance do I think is the Big Ten or the SEC going to agree to an arrangement like this? I don't know that they necessarily would. I do know that the SEC and the Big Ten are in a pitched battle for supremacy in a very competitive marketplace, and one of them might take them to keep them away from the other. The Big Ten one's the most the Big Ten one's the most logical one, because what you would do is you'd make them annual opponents of USC to continue that rivalry, and also to continue that rivalry in the
Michigan
dates that it currently is. No. I'm talking about
the dates that USC, they currently is in November.
Yeah. So October when they're in South Bend, November when they're in LA. That's important because Notre Dame needs that October and November game. They need that. Purdue's another annual opponent of Notre Dame. They played 86 times, I think. So you have those two play every year, and then the other 3 spots just rotate among the other 16 teams.
Yeah.
So you're going to
How
get
many
Ohio
times have they
State,
played
Penn State,
Michigan?
Oregon.
They haven't played Michigan nearly as many times as Purdue, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's been more rare, but they used to play Michigan State a lot. But like, if you're getting, okay, you're going to get Notre Dame, Rutgers, you're going to get Notre Dame, Maryland out of this. You're going to get Notre Dame, Northwestern, but you're also going to get Notre Dame, Oregon, Notre Dame, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, which they just did a home and home with Ohio State. Notre Dame, Indiana, which would be great right now. Notre Dame, Iowa would be a great matchup. Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, all of that.
Notre Dame,
Notre Dame, Washington
would be kind of weird, but I guess that would be part of it. But
they play, they've played.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the most natural fit. And I don't know if the Big Ten would take their other sports. The other thing about Notre Dame, their other sports used to be in the Big East. They just put them in the Big East if they want. They could put them in the American if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Those leagues would take them in a heartbeat.
Also, I think you have to start thinking ahead too about the bigger picture. It's like, let's just say that Jim Phillips and Pete Bevacqua get together and have a discussion, and they all everybody loves everybody. What is Notre Dame's schedule going to look like in 2031? I think is an interesting dynamic, and I wonder if there's a self-preservation aspect of this too for Notre Dame.
I think Notre Dame might have been looking for a reason to look into this.
Yeah,
and so and the other one I didn't mention is the Big 12. Brett Yormark seems open for business. He'd probably say, "We'll do this with you."
Well, the last thing, and I think the Big 12 too would probably stand to gain much more than the ACC would, or just as much, because the Big 12 is looking for tentpole legitimizing victories. And if BYU had beaten Notre Dame this year, they'd be in the playoff. And I know that BYU fans are having a hard time understanding, and I think rightfully so. Their resume is actually quite good. But I do think that the win that Miami possesses over Notre Dame carried a lot more weight than BYU's win over Utah. And if Notre Dame were to play a scheduling alliance and their best teams happen to coincide with the times that Notre Dame's on the schedule, those teams that are actually feel like they're worthy of a playoff spot, like BYU does this year and didn't get to go, would actually have a different major chess piece on their resume that just doesn't exist right now.
The thing, the Big Ten makes more sense because it is now kind of a national conference and Notre Dame recruits nationally. The Big 12 is also basically a national conference. It stretches from West Virginia and Florida out to Utah.
I mean, the reason why the Big Ten makes the most sense is because if you closed your eyes and pictured a league that Notre Dame was in, the Big Ten would be the answer.
But the Big Ten has always said, you're welcome to join us as a full member, but that's what it's got to be. I don't know. I think they'd probably still take that stance, but we'll see. I would ask if I were Notre Dame. I would ask them. I'd ask the SEC. I'd ask the Big 12.
Well,
I'd see who gave me a deal.
It's an important thing to acknowledge because you alluded to this, but I want to say it. If Notre Dame does leave and follows your theories in the column or starts poking around at other conferences to see if they can get a similar agreement, I think we're lying to ourselves if we think the reason for that happening is because of a Twitter post.
No,
I think
it gives them an excuse. Yes, it gives them a reason.
They should be doing this anyway. And Miami fans were joking. They're like, "Wait a minute, you're gonna tear down the ACC while you're at it? This day keeps getting better." The teams that are
the Miami and Florida State and Clemson fans are okay,
go after it. Yeah,
do what you're gonna do.
So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, and I understand. I know that I'm probably not the most loving messenger at the moment to Notre Dame people, but I truly understand A, why they're upset, B, why they found the ACC's tweets to be inappropriate, although I do think that the commitment to the ACC should illustrate it to the full-time members. And I understand why they would want to preserve their future schedules and their placement in the sport, because they're a property and a brand that's as valuable or more valuable than anybody else in the country. That said, if the entire sport falls apart, realignment happens again, Notre Dame will always find a seat at whatever table gets constructed.
So there was a really interesting question asked, kind of along that line, but also along the lines of what does it mean for the college football playoff? So let's hear this question to Pete Bevacqua.
Have you spoken with any Power 4 commissioners since Sunday? And if so, what were those conversations kind of focused on?
Since Sunday, the only commissioner I've spoken to and a couple of great conversations with him is Greg Sankey. Greg and I talk all the time. I can't tell you how much I admire Greg and his leadership. And, good conversations, really about format, process. Gave him my viewpoint on the process. He shared some thoughts that he had with me that obviously between Greg and me. Format, Greg knows, they all know how I feel about the format. Go and put the process aside, the format. I mean, you know, 4 teams, 12 teams, 14 teams, 16 teams, 1,000 teams. Should be 16 teams, in my opinion, with 5 automatic qualifiers and 11 at large.
Now, if I were Captain Clickbait, I'd be like, Notre Dame's trying to make a deal with the SEC. That's not what this was. This was Pete Bevacqua reminding everyone, we have a seat at the table, just like the power conferences and the group of 5 conferences, when we all sit down and hammer out the playoff format. And he just told you what he wants and what Notre Dame wants the next playoff format to look like. 16 teams, 5 automatic bids, 11 at larges. Guess who else would like that?
The SEC.
The SEC. Now, the SEC would like 16 teams with 16 at larges, but they understand that's not going to happen. So,
yeah.
But this is Notre Dame saying, of these big dogs, that's the dog we're going to be on the side of.
I don't recall, too, if we mentioned this, and I'm sure this is part of the evolving college football playoff discussion that we're going to have, but have we mentioned on the show at any point that Ross Dellinger reported that Bevacqua told him that Notre Dame is assured of a CFP berth if it's ranked in the top 12 starting next year, and how important that is?
Okay. Yes. Well, okay. There's an if to that. It's if the playoff is still 12 or if it goes to 14. If it goes to 16, there's no guarantee.
Okay, but like basically,
it wouldn't matter at that point.
But basically, they just got an assurance that if they're ranked in the top 12, that's all they need to do.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And that means even if you're number 12, which would be this year's chopping block, which is a major, They would be knocking Miami out, which, by the way, might cause the ACC to go nuclear on them. Right. Could you imagine?
And here's the thing.
This year?
Yeah. Now, look, the ACC agreed to that. So did the SEC. So did the Big Ten. I guarantee you now that because when they agreed to it, it probably seemed purely hypothetical. But next time it could be an SEC team or a Big Ten team getting knocked out, and you agreed to that.
Then basically assures Notre Dame of an automatic bid without
as long as they're in
a conference or in a conference championship.
Yes, and that is
frustrating.
That is a demonstration of Notre Dame's market power that they could pull that off.
Too is, they could move Notre Dame down 13th and then not do it if they ever wanted to get to that point. But I think that piece of news right there is, like you said, an illustration of power, but also a reminder of how freaking important it is to properly rank the teams week 1, 2, 3, and 4, because you won't be able to, in good faith, if they're ranked number 8th wrongly throughout the entire season, drop them back to 13 and not give them their automatic bid. So if you put them in that position, because this is the thing that's most frustrating to me, Notre Dame is pissed because they were improperly ranked and it wasn't corrected until the end, which almost, if you kind of zoom out into a multiverse, right? Marvel movies means that you agreed with me the whole time. Like that, is that not what right? Like I was saying, you're improperly ranked from the beginning.
No. You were right all along. That's the thing. And I think that the Notre Dame fans got mad at you because what you were saying was hurtful to Notre Dame. They wouldn't have been mad at you if there were 2 other teams involved.
Well, we wouldn't even be talking about it either if it was just done right the first time. I wouldn't have spoken about Notre. Like we would.
Well, and that is why I think one of the things that may come out of this, because remember, they have not decided on the format for next year. One of the things that may come out, and they have until January 23rd to decide on a format, but also I think at any time they can make this adjustment, is the leagues may go to ESPN and say, we are done with the weekly ranking release.
Which then I think
would probably something else.
Which I think would be healthy for the committee too, to not feel like they have to produce something.
Correct.
Could you imagine if you were rating 40 and after every 3 graphs you had to provide a final draft to some, or a rough draft to an editor?
Yeah, if I had to tweet out the story as I was writing it, it would suck.
While the information is still being dispersed, you're at a press conference and you have to keep doing that. Like that's what they're doing, and I think that there's a place for it. And I think the only reason why this is a discussion point isn't because it's a bad process. It's because this committee did a bad job with the process. If the committee would have just done the same thing that this is the first time I've ever heard this. There've been
It's not the first time it's ever happened. We talked about 2014. How many times the last month?
I know, but
we did the same thing in 2014.
When's the last time? And I know that people have said this before, but I feel like this would not be a talking point if Notre Dame was number 19 in the first ranking review.
It wouldn't. But again, this has happened twice in 11 years where they have stupidly ranked the loser of a head-to-head that had an identical resume and the same record ahead of the team that beat them and had to change it on the last day because they realized how dumb it looked.
Yeah. Dan Wetzel tweeted this too, and I thought this was interesting, but he said it's also part of the job of the athletic director and the administration and everybody involved in Notre Dame to understand the nuances of how this works. And there's no reason why a podcaster for Andy and Ari on 3 should be more aware of the likelihood of that happening than the athletic director.
They shouldn't have been surprised.
So,
I get the players being surprised. They should not have been surprised.
Like this was written kind of on the wall from the beginning. So like we talked about. Yeah. So like
I do wonder if the leagues will go to ESPN and say those shows on Tuesday night, done. You put out one ranking. And ESPN is going to say, okay, fine, we're going to pay you a little less then. Because that's part of what we pay for.
Yeah. And then I wonder if the paying a little less makes them change their mind because everybody wants every last cent out of the sport. So
it's a great question.
Which makes me think that it's going to still continue. But
I don't know.
I think that there should be a larger discussion, and I don't know if that's today or another day, of who's on the committee too.
Yeah,
I think if you're
we have always said 12 or 13 intelligent people could, but those are 12 intelligent people, or it was 13 people when they did the first ranking. Those are 13 intelligent people, and they did something really stupid. So maybe not.
I think 13 intelligent people were in that room this year. I probably have accomplished more in life than me and most of the people listening to the show.
Absolutely.
I also think that it's inappropriate for the committee chair to be doing a coaching search in the middle of it because I want the person who's making the rankings to be.
Well, the original committee chair was not doing a coaching search. The backup was. Yeah.
But my point is that if you are an athletic director or a sitting employee of a school that's playing college football, I don't think you should be on the committee at all. I don't think that anybody that has a current responsibility in the way the sport is constructed should be on the committee. And I don't know who that leaves. Retired athletic directors, retired administrators, maybe it just
retired
makes the
coaches, retired players.
I don't know. Or current sports writers. I have no idea. Probably not, because current sports writers have jobs to do in the moment. It has to be old people, I guess. But it's just, to me, if you're distracted by other very pertinent things, like hiring a coach at Arkansas, I find that it undermines your ability to do it, especially if you do something that people perceive to be as wrong.
Yeah. Well, we will see what changes this makes. Obviously, the Big Ten is still pushing for larger than 16, pushing for lots of auto bids. Nobody else seems to want that. The SEC wants 16. They want as many at-larges as possible. We now know where Notre Dame stands on the thing. We know where the Big 12 stands on it, I think, because of their opposition to the auto bids. And there's a reason for that, because they don't want to self-identify as a second-class citizen. But I would think they would want 5 auto bids and 11 at-large. So I think we kind of know where the battle lines are drawn. I think it's Big 10 versus the world.
Well, I wonder if what happened to BYU this year makes you think about the second-class citizen thing.
Good question. We you know what? We need Brett. We're going to request Brett Yormark. We need to talk to Brett Yormark because I wonder if this has changed his mind on that, because he actually talked to his own ADs, and his own ADs were the ones who talked him into, hey, fight back on this thing. We'll earn our place. And the thing is, their champion has a bye without any sort of, you have to be a champion to get a bye. And their champion looks like it can compete in this tournament. So it may be that the Big 12 is turned a corner on that, but we'll find out. This is going to affect that college football playoff negotiation, and I think that's maybe the more interesting part of this, because, like Pete Bevacqua said, they can eventually mend the relationship with the ACC. I think the more important thing, and you nailed it, there may not be an ACC, at least that looks like this, in 5 to 6 years.
I don't know if I'm
And
going
so
to
they
be
may have
highly offensive or not, but like the ACC strikes me as like an old beater car with nice rims on it. You know what you can do with nice rims? You can take them off and put them on another car.
It's got an expiration date. They gave themselves their own expiration date. So it's something to consider. Something else you should be considering. What you put in your body. Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition. If I need a quick breakfast, quick lunch, I take the Huel Black Edition powder, I put it in this bottle, I shake it up, and boom, I have a complete meal with 35 grams of protein, every vitamin and mineral I need, and it gets me through to the next meal. And that's incredible when you have a very busy life. And I tell you, everybody in my family loves the Huel Black Edition because we all have those moments where we need to grab something quick. So we've got the powder at our house. We've had the ready-to-drink bottles at our house. If you want those ready-to-drink bottles, they've got them at your local Target now. But if you want to get the best deal, you go to Huel.com. That's Huel.com. Use the code Staples15 and get 15% off your first order of $75 or more, plus a free gift. You can also order the Huel Daily Greens right here. That's got 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods, super greens, adaptogens, lion's mane, mushrooms, and 4 grams of fiber. It's a great way to start your day. Everything you need in a can. Huel is the world's #1 complete nutrition. Huel.com, Huel.com, and the code is Staples15 for 15% off your first purchase of $75 or more. Ari, while we're on the subject of Notre Dame has a Heisman finalist. Running back Jeremiah Love, one of the 4 players announced as a Heisman finalist on Monday. So in New York City on Saturday night, your finalists are Jeremiah Love, I just mentioned, Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin, and Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia. You and I are both voters. If we want to keep our votes, we can't tell everybody how we voted till after they announce the winner.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't talk about what we think is going to happen because, I like BetMGM had the odds up until the votes were in. And the last odds I saw were it looked like Fernando Mendoza was the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, I think that it's hard. I want to navigate this without getting in trouble. But my perception of who I think was going to win it didn't mirror the odds. So,
right.
And maybe that's because, let's just be honest, people who vote for the Heisman watch 2 candidates who are playing each other in a championship game and probably cast their ballot based on who won the game. And it's very interesting too, because
wait, are you saying now you wish that they had opened the voting earlier? Because you were the one who said you should be thrown in jail if you voted too early before. And now they changed it so it didn't open till Saturday afternoon.
No, it didn't. I thought it did open early.
It opened Saturday afternoon. They changed it so that people couldn't vote before the day of the conference championship games. It used to be it opened during the week before.
I don't think you should ever catch your vote till you have all the information. What I'm saying is that I think most people who vote are obtuse enough to just narrow down what happens in the final game and make their full decision on it. Can both of those things be true? I didn't vote till after the game was over. And
I voted Sunday morning.
I voted at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. And I will say that my vote wasn't 100% predicated on who won the Big Ten title game. So
no, it wasn't. It was the whole season, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's the most outstanding player in the United States for this season. None, the other seasons don't count. We've seen career achievement awards. I think like Herschel Walker probably should have won it as a freshman. He ended up winning it as a junior, which was more of a career achievement award when he got it. But it's interesting. It's this award still means a lot to a lot of people. I feel like because it ignores 19 positions on the field, I don't give it as much weight as other people do.
What do you think it is about the Heisman Trophy? And I don't know, is there another, because other people don't care about the MVP of the NFL the same way that they do about the Heisman. Right. People aren't reading columns about who are the 10 Heisman MVP favorites in the NFL before going into it, because it would just be.
I'm not sure. It's interesting because the late Norm Carlson, who is the longtime sports information guy at Florida, would tell the story about when Steve Spurrier won the Heisman. And this was in 1966. And basically he just gets a phone call. It's like, hey, you won the Heisman. And it wasn't a huge deal probably until I want to say the 80s in terms of this television spectacle and the TV show and how all that worked. So it's not like it's been that way for 100 years where it was always this massive deal. But I do feel like it is the award that we argue about the most, that we care about the most. And I'm not saying just in college football. I'm saying in all of American sports.
And
you're right.
I wonder what it is about this trophy that stands apart from
the NFL MVP, the NBA MVP, American and National League MVPs, like those are objectively bigger awards because they're professional sports. It's it's the best of the best in the world.
Yeah.
The Ballon d'Or, the World Cup, the best player in the World Cup, or the best player. The best player in international soccer each year. Like those are massive awards, but this one means as much or more to American sports fans.
I think it mirrors why college football is so special to us, because I feel like college football is more, not that pro athletes don't have legacy, but like winning the Heisman is a legacy award for your institution. Like when Josh Allen wins the MVP, that isn't a legitimizing thing for the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
Like
they just want to win the Super Bowl. They don't care.
Want to win the Super Bowl, and they happen to have one of the best players in the country or in the world on their team. But like if Vanderbilt wins the Heisman this year, that is a source of pride for Vanderbilt University. And I think that's part of the reason why it stands. Well, yeah,
go to Oklahoma. Like the front of you've been there. The front of the football building in Oklahoma is statues of all the guys who've won the Heisman.
Yeah, what's the first thing you see when you walk into Ohio State's football building? The Heisman Trophy. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And every place that has Heisman winners has a place in their football building that commemorates those. And some people retire. Don't most programs retire the number of everybody who wins a Heisman?
Not always, because there's usually so many numbers. There's so many guys on the roster in college football.
Yeah. I mean, Julian's saying where's number 10, and Troy Smith wore number 10, and he won the Heisman, and he's a finalist. But
yeah, I think there's too many numbers. Like Florida has a Ring of Honor. People didn't wear number 11 for a while. That was Spurrier's number, and he actually gave it out to one of his players, Ben Hanks, who's one of their linebackers. And my friend Steve Gorton, when he was a student reporter at the Independent Florida Alligator, the next player to have 11 after Ben Hanks left, Steve was asking Steve Spurrier a question, and he said, Coach, you gave so-and-so Ben Hanks number 11. And Steve Spurrier's like, Ben Hanks number, that's my number. Like, but that's, and like you've seen players wear 15 at Florida. That was Tim Tebow's number. I don't think now 32 wasn't retired at USC before all the OJ stuff happened. So yeah, I think there's too many guys on the roster to be retiring numbers, but think about what it means for a school. Like let's say if Mendoza wins it, like it's not just Indiana being a national power this year. Like that is a massive legitimizing factor for what Indiana's doing.
I mean, it's like you can just tell people you can win the Heisman at Indiana.
Yeah. What a recruiting chip that is.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I don't know if we're supposed to say who we think's going to win. If you want to know what our opinion of who we think's going to win, it probably mirrors what the Las Vegas.
I'm just telling you what the odds said, and so that's all I'm going to go with.
The overwhelming favorite to win it last time I checked.
And so Indiana has never had a Heisman Trophy winner. Anthony Thompson was second in 1989. So that would be huge. Obviously, if Diego Pavia won for Vanderbilt, that would be a massive thing for Vanderbilt. I will say, if Jeremiah Love were to win, it would continue the tradition of years that end in 5. A running back wins the Heisman. So 2015 was Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Andy, we were just on Vanderbilt's campus like this weekend.
Yes.
And I felt Pavia's presence. I don't know if you did.
You could just feel the swag.
No, he was on billboards and stuff around
emanating.
And I went into the bookstore because I forgot my computer charger, and there was a lot of Pavia stuff in there too. And maybe that's part of the reason why I'm influenced by that.
Did you get any two-turnt gear?
I didn't. No, I was looking for a computer charger that they somehow did not have. I can't be the first person on Vanderbilt's campus that needed a MacBook Pro charger. Don't know why they wouldn't have it. Hey,
It's always
also,
about you.
Scumbag meter. Tell me if I'm being a scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
If I bought a computer charger from Apple to get me through the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and now I don't need it anymore and I returned it, does that make me a scumbag?
Probably.
Okay. Sometimes I have like a hard time like knowing like is this a scumbag move or does everybody do this?
Probably. See, I lost my last charger, so I just had to keep the one I bought because
If you didn't lose it, would you have returned it?
No, I would have just kept it. I would have had an extra.
Okay. Now this is my third one.
Well, you are the person who just always forgets his charger, so that's kind of on you.
Yeah, I just walked into my office here and it was plugged into the wall. I'm like, God damn it.
All right, Ari.
Let's do it.
We gotta open a pack. Our friends at Panini. Visit PaniniAmerica.net to collect your favorite college and NFL stars. We're gonna talk Penn State in a minute. I just want to show off this Tyler Warren number 2700 luminance autograph that I got a few months ago. I do love Tyler Warren. So and I got another Tyler Warren auto recently. So that's one that I've been hitting a lot, and I feel bad because now his quarterback's out. So he's maybe the best player on the Colts at the moment. But we're opening a pack of Donruss Elite 2025 right here. Ari, there's your guy. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Do you have any of your recent Jackson Smith and Jigba acquisitions?
I don't have any acquisitions. I have ones that are going out. I have a ton of JSN because I was collecting him at the beginning of his career, but I've got some pretty big ones here. Here's some massive JSN cards. Here's 4 of them. They're just on my desk, already slabbed up. Here are 2 from Select that are tie-dye PSA 10s. I'm going to maybe keep those, but his value's through the roof right now. He scored twice on Sunday. And here's one of his biggest cards in existence. That's the Contenders optic. This is regular Contenders. Cracked ice rookie ticket numbered to 23 that I have here. And I also have another hit, but you keep going.
Oh, I got a Brian Thomas Jr. here. I got a Joey Bosa. Got a refractor Dave Craig in those glorious 80s Seahawks uniforms. But the last one I want to show you, Ari, and I have a question about this guy from a collectability standpoint. So it's Bo Nix. Bo Nix is second-year quarterback. So rookie cards still a lot floating out there from last year's series. They're winning a ton in Denver. But I feel like people aren't sold entirely on Bo Nix as a big reason for that. Where are collectors with Bo Nix right now?
He's still very valuable because he's young. If you get his rookie, he went to the playoffs last year. Very expensive player still. Okay.
That's what I was wondering, because he's a quarterback who's winning a ton of games. And if this keeps up, eventually people are gonna be like, okay, because it's Bo Nix, it must just be really good. And I feel like there's a little bit of skepticism there still. So but go to PaniniAmerica.net.
Andy,
rip some packs. See if you can pull Bo Nix. What you got?
Just so you know, I'm kind of upset with Panini right now in a playful way because they just released my favorite product of the year, which is 2025 Panini Prism Draft Picks, which is all these players in their college uniforms. And we are
I love those.
Earth to promote that product because it's for college. Anyway, I went to my local hobby shop.
We need to promote it. That's why we need to send it on our way so I can promote it.
Because they haven't sent it to me, I went to the local hobby shop and I bought 2 last week. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of the hits on my desk here. And I think people will probably like this. You know who this is, Andy? I don't know if you can be able to tell because of the lighting. Can you read it?
I can't.
Keelan Russell. And
nice. There you go.
I have
maybe Alabama's next starting quarterback.
Yes. Quinshon Judkins in his Ohio State uniform. What else do I got here? Charles Woodson in his uniform here. I got Curtis.
He was pretty good.
His Indiana Prism break.
Canadian Cannon.
I've got Matthew Golden's auto in a color match card for Texas in the box. But then I hit the biggest thing that I've been telling you about for months now. And I got lucky in one of the boxes, a Panini Prism 2025 Prism Draft Picks Color Blast, which is the most beautiful card on the face of the earth. And this is Eli Manning and Jackson Dart at Ole Miss together on the same card. And this one is like one of the biggest case hits you could possibly get. And I was lucky enough to pull that out of boxes that I purchased. So Panini, if you're listening to this, please, for the love of God, send me like 100 of them. But if you don't send it to us, just know to the listener that you can go to the store, buy it yourself, and hit those big cards on your own.
That's the way to do it. Or go to paniniamerica.net and you can get them delivered straight to the crib. Ari, let us break down one more thing. Matt Campbell had his introductory press conference at Penn State on Monday. And this is when we talked about, when he got hired. I love the hire. Don't understand why he wasn't the first or second choice right off the bat. We said it when the job opened. We're like, okay, take your big swings. Call Marcus Freeman. He's going to say no. Call Mike Elko. He's probably going to say no. But Matt Campbell was one of those names that we were talking about that made sense for Penn State. And I couldn't figure out why it took them so long to get there. But I'm glad they did, because I think they're going to like it.
You know what I love about, he did all the highlights in his news conference, right? Like, he talked about Joe Paterno and some of the Penn State greats and all the things that you do to ingratiate yourself into the society there. But I saw a clip of him walking through the stadium with his family for the first time. Did you see this clip? And
no.
He cried. And I think that it was probably the emotion of holy crap. This is one of the meccas of college football. And I think that he's been really torn because he is in a sport that loyalty is not at a premium.
Right.
Is inherently loyal. And I think he cared a lot, very deeply, for Iowa State and was torn about that decision to leave. And we always knew this about Matt Campbell. Everyone, he's always the next great guy on the hot boards and stuff. It's there's probably only a collection of 3 or 4 jobs that he would ever leave Iowa State for. And Penn State was one of them. So my heart always roots for people who really are so grateful to be where they are and have an appreciation for what they get to do every day. And I think Matt Campbell did a pretty good job of illustrating that. Now, I'm very curious. Being the head coach at Penn State and being the head coach at Iowa State are very different jobs, Andy. You have to recruit at a different level, a different type of kid. You're going to be expected to not only make the playoff, but to win playoff games. And I always love hiring coaches that did more with less. I think that translates well, but now it's an entirely different ball game, and I'm super excited to see how that plays out for Penn State.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be interesting to watch because we've said this a bunch. Matt Campbell is a great developer, great evaluator of talent, but in this environment, you have to be signing the freaks too. You have to sign the Abdul Carters and the guys like that, the Saquon Barkleys. Now, I guess Saquon might be a bad example because I think he was actually a little bit under-recruited. But you've got to sign the 5-star guys as well as the guys that you feel can be developed into something special. And honestly, you don't know how somebody can do that until they get in that situation, because Matt Campbell in his career has really not needed to do that. He's been at Mount Union, he's been at Toledo, he's been at Iowa State. And I think those are different recruiting environments than Penn State. So the question is, how's he going to handle that? And, he got asked about his recruiting and what it's going to look like at Penn State. And he kind of laid it out. So here's Matt Campbell on what he intends to do from a recruiting standpoint.
Yeah. Let's start with, the transfer portal to the high school piece of it. I think one of the great reasons being here is, boy, you're in the most fertile ground of the excellence of high school football in a 6 to 8 hour radius. Everything will start with building high school football and continuing to do a great job in this state and our surrounding states. Nobody's going to attack more than us. The transfer portal obviously has become a unique advantage probably in some ways, and sometimes it can be a disadvantage. But I think if you look at our history, the last couple of years, Jaden Higgins was maybe the 40th ranked transfer portal guy, and Jaden Higgins was the number 1 receiver taken in the draft last year. You go to in offensive tackle, Jalen Travis, who was drafted by the Colts, number 40th in the transfer portal, was the first transfer portal offensive tackle taken. We have a process. We know what we're looking for in the transfer portal, and we're going to have to use that to continue to supplement our football team. But we are going to be, and nobody will be better at developing their student athletes and our high school football players better than us. We've proven that every step of the way. I think you can ask Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Will McDonald. Man, the flash of the stars, that's cool on signing day. But winning football games on Saturday is what we're going to be about. And that's development. And we're going to have to be better than anybody in college football if we want to get where we want to go.
Now, that doesn't address the whole 5-star thing, and I think there's a reason you don't talk about that now. But I want to see, the thing is, it just had signing day. Obviously, Penn State didn't sign many players at all because they didn't have a coach. So you've got a full cycle. So I just want to see what your 27 class looks like on that front. And are you going to be real players in the portal this year? Because you're probably going to have to.
I want my coach to be like, we're going to be recruiting the best players in the country and we're going to get them. But again, opening day conference, if this was 2017, I'd be like, oh my God, I hate that. Obviously there's a lot more that goes into the stew to win games now than it used to. So I don't really react to it the same way.
Yeah. Matt Campbell's bringing his GM from Iowa State. So from a personnel standpoint, that's kind of where they're starting. And I'm guessing they'll have a much bigger infrastructure than they had at Iowa State. He talked about how they had to create a lot of that for themselves. And a lot of that was because all that stuff was new. So they had to create the collective, had to create all that stuff. Penn State, the operation exists. You have revenue share now. So it's a lot different than him being the Iowa State coach and all of that sort of getting dumped on everybody. So we'll see what he does with it. The other part I was really interested in, Ari, is Pat Kraft, the athletic director, because remember on Friday, there's this audio leak. And it certainly sounded like Pat Kraft. Anybody who's ever talked to Pat Kraft is like, that's his voice. And he's talking to allegedly players who'd come to meet with him, football players from Penn State who'd come to meet with him. And they were expressing their support for Terry Smith, the interim coach, to get the full-time job. And he had a very raw conversation with them that I think if he had whiffed on Matt Campbell and ended up hiring somebody that the fan base didn't like, that this stuff he said would be used against him. Now I actually think it's going to work in his favor because he did get a coach they like. Because if you look at what he said, he didn't say anything that the average Penn State fan hasn't said. And that, the one quote that really stuck out to me, even beyond the one where he said, if I don't hire somebody good here, they're going to fire me. How can you F up Penn State, blah, 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 blah. But the one that stuck out for me the most is what's happened here too many times at Penn State is they bleeping settle for second best. That's why we made the move. And he's talking about firing James Franklin. I think that's what the average Penn State fan wants to hear. But I think when it came out, which was Friday, which is before they had actually hired Matt Campbell, I think it made everybody a little nervous.
Yeah. No, I think that you want your athletic director to illustrate that viewpoint, right? Now, in order to get the best, I think at times you need to be more strategic about, hirings and firings and when those occur and who's available and all those things. I don't know if the timing of this hiring made it look like they kind of fell backwards into Matt Campbell. If they would have went out and got him immediately, maybe it would the optics of that would look different. I also know that in a year from now, if Penn State's in the playoff, none of this shit matters. So, it's all about how things actually go. And I know that we get so caught up in perception of when did this hire happen? Who did they get? What did that person accomplish? And listen, Matt Campbell has accomplished just about as much as anybody else in this. I mean, he's accomplished more. Could you make the case that he's accomplished more than Lane Kiffin?
I don't know that I would say that, but I'd say it's close. Because
it's different
the
level.
job at Iowa State is so much harder.
Yeah.
That's a place where they were winning 3 and 4 games a year, and he comes in, turns them into not just a perennial bowl team, but a team that could compete for Big 12 championships. Like, that's a huge leap to be able to do that. Huge.
Yeah.
So now the question is, if you can make that leap, can you make the leap of Penn State being a 10-win regular season team to being a national championship caliber team? I would argue that that's actually a bigger leap than what Matt Campbell did. I think it's harder to do, harder to go from really good to elite than it is to go from really bad to pretty good.
But I think he's going to have to start knocking pretty soon, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't like, the thing about Iowa
No,
State
James
is,
Franklin's success through the years tells you have to, your baseline is a James Franklin blah year, which is going 10-2.
Yeah. At Iowa State, you have the ability to have down years to rebuild. There's no rebuilding. It's like, he knows that. Let's go.
Well, here's Pat Kraft, by the way, acknowledging that was him on the audio, because we were trying to kind of dance around it because he hadn't acknowledged. We're in the AI generation now. Like, people can make anything, but that was definitely him. So I feel more comfortable talking about it.
Well, I'll talk to any of my athletes whenever they ask me to talk. I'm very passionate and I'm transparent with my athletes. I tell you, with my kids and my student athletes. What I will tell you about that is that I'm embarrassed. I apologize to anyone that I may have offended with that video that leaked. Personally, it's been challenging for me, but I am very passionate about Penn State, and it was 9 or 10 football players that asked want to come in and sit down, and we had an open and honest discussion. But I fell short of the standard that I should represent for all those people, all my staff that sits up there, all 833 athletes that I represent, and I can't apologize enough for those who I may have offended, and I gotta get better. But every one of my athletes know they can call me at any point in time, and I have open and honest discussions whenever they want.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, if you were sitting next to Terry Smith introducing him as the interim who you promoted, that apology probably isn't enough, and that tape's probably getting your ass fired.
Mm-hmm.
But sitting next to Matt Campbell, and if Matt Campbell turns out to be the coach who makes Penn State ascend to the next level, like, you're going to be a legend for saying all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that they might print it on t-shirts one day.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah. So,
and it's crazy how life works. It's crazy how you're on that thin of a razor's edge. Like, this could have turned out very differently.
I just like when people, real talk, dude. Real talk can help.
I do too. Because he didn't dance around anything. He said, again, what every Penn State fan is thinking. And you just never hear the person in charge say it. And I'm guessing now that they've got the coach, and it's one they probably like, or at least are indifferent to, that they're like, hell yeah, man, that's what I think too.
Penn State is in this position because it no longer was willing to accept being in second place. Period. End of a discussion.
Yep. It is going to be a lot of fun watching this, because I am excited to see what Matt Campbell can do. Because I always like when you see someone who's really achieved a lot and they ascend a level.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Campbell, obviously beloved at Iowa State. I thought it was very telling the way Jamie Pollard, the athletic director at Iowa State, reacted to him leaving. He basically said, Matt Campbell owes Iowa State nothing. He's brought this program to places we never thought it could go. I thought it was really cool. Like, you just don't see that. We just watched the whole charade with Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss. Like, that was a different vibe for sure. So
yeah, he's a classy dude.
Yeah, good luck to Matt Campbell at Penn State. Good luck to Jimmy Rogers, the new coach at Iowa State, because They got him in there really quick. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch all these new faces in new places, including Lane Kiffin. It's going to be fun. So we'll talk a lot about them. We've also got a lot of playoff talk coming, a lot of bowl talk coming. We got to break down the bowls at some point, Ari, because even if Notre Dame's not playing,
we've got 2 weeks before a game.
Yeah, I still want to watch them. And of course, we've solidified our travel plans for the first week of the playoff. If anybody, we may just have to have people recommend songs that'll keep us awake as we drive through the night from Norman, Oklahoma to College Station.
A zero sugar Monster Energy drive, I think. But
caffeine will be heavily consumed. All right, Mega Board Wednesday coming up. And given everything that's happened in the last week, the boards are going to be popping. We'll talk to you tomorrow.